Hi, I'm Melba Pearson, also known as the Resident Legal Diva, and it is time for another Daily Diddy, bringing you P. Diddy trial updates every day, all day, until we get a verdict. So today we had some very interesting witnesses on the stand. First off was David James. He was the personal assistant for Diddy between the years of 2007 2009. He gave some testimony yesterday and finished up on the stand today. He talked about some very disturbing incidences, including a time where they were in London, and they being him, Diddy, and Cassie, and that he was tasked with bringing Cassie food every single day to her hotel. And so he goes to the hotel, and normally he's used to seeing Cassie answer the door, but these last few days, she wasn't answering, and he became concerned. It was only security that was answering the door. So he did some digging. What he ended up finding out was a blog post that talked about Diddy hitting Cassie in a club in London. So he was like, ooh, what is going on here? And of course, we had testimony from Cassie talking about how she was in London and he basically beat her up in a car while leaving an event. And she felt that she couldn't leave because security was there, and, that she felt very trapped in this hotel room. So David James did a little, internet search and found a blog post talking about what happened. Well, Diddy found out. He kind of had a conversation with him. Diddy freaked out and then proceeded to search David James's computer and looking all at his internet browsing history. And he kept saying, oh, it was a lie, all of this. So David James is like, what the heck? And he found this really jarring and disturbing for his privacy to kind of be, defiled that way. David James also talked about how he was instructed by Diddy to buy Astroglide, condoms, baby oil, all that kind of stuff, and that he was reimbursed in cash. So basically, he was told to buy everything off the books because Diddy did not want this to be part of basically the company's expenses. So again, he's directing his employees to buy stuff and do it off the books. Also, really disturbing, Diddy made David James take a lie detector test on 2 occasions. First time was when some money went missing, and then the second time was when a watch went missing. Of course, clearly he wasn't the one that took either one, but Diddy's security ended up searching his clothes, his belongings and everything like that to look for the missing items. So again, shows the level of control that Diddy had over everyone and how he was always. More on Diddy's control over everyone. David James talked about how he was at a club one night. It was a New Year's Eve party. He got high on ecstasy and he was dancing, having a good time, and Diddy was recording. And then later on, Diddy was like, I'm going to keep this in case I need it. Basically intimidating, letting him know like, hey, if you step out of line, I'm going to release this video and embarrass you. Also, another disturbing, because it just keeps getting worse. What really caused David James to bounce was when he saw that Combs' team, Diddy and all of them, were about to roll up on Suge Knight, and they got guns and all of that. He was like, wait a minute, this is looking like my life is in danger. I didn't sign up for any shootouts and craziness. So that's when he quit, gave 6 months notice, and ended up training the next assistant. But again, this shows the level of violence and control, because if guns and everything was part of the norm, it would be reasonable for people to be intimidated. He also talked about how Diddy tried to get him to file a false police report against his personal chef because Diddy and his chef weren't getting along, totally beefing, whatever. And so David was like, yeah, sure, I'll do that. And he was like, I'm not going to go file a false police report. That's not happening. So he lied to Diddy and said that he did. Additionally, he talked about how the security detail would tell him, you know what rhymes with tired? Fired. So again, it showed this culture of, you got a hashtag team no sleep. If you're working for Diddy, he has complete control over your life. You have to just, when he says jump, you have to say how high and all of that. And it also makes sense as to why he was so reluctant to testify in this case, because he was like, listen, I got out of this situation with my life. I'm not looking to be back involved again. So I think that speaks a lot to his credibility, which is really good. He never did see any violence firsthand, so that was Next up on the stand was Regina Ventura, who was Cassie's mom. She talked about a 2011 sex tape that Diddy was threatening to release because he found out that Cassie was dating Kid Cudi. So basically, he extorted Cassie and her mom and was like, give me 20 grand or else I'm going to release it. So what did Cassie's mom do? She took out a home equity loan in order to try and bail her daughter out of this. Gave him the money, and then that was the end of that particular saga. But again, shows that Cassie and her mom, her family, weren't people of means, so that could play into why she didn't leave or why she felt she couldn't leave because she didn't have money for an apartment, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Also, the mom took pictures of beatings that Diddy gave Cassie in 2011 to be able to document that. Also, Regina, the mom, called the police on Diddy at one point because he wouldn't give Cassie back her phone. She almost beat him too. The lesson is always never mess with Mama Bear. So again, just as a point of clarification, Regina, Cassie's mom, took pictures of the injuries that Cassie sustained as a result of beatings from Diddy. So in that particular instance where basically Diddy was holding on to Cassie's phone and wouldn't give it back, Cassie went to her mom. Her mom basically called the police. A whole confrontation ensued. So Diddy eventually was on the scene, gave the phone back, but then took Cassie's car and wouldn't let her have it and left with that. And Regina was like, she was like squabbled up, like she was about to fight the man. And I was like, yeah, go ahead, mom. And of course, in a very smart move by the defense, they did not cross-examine Regina Ventura because where are you going to go with that, right? Like at the end of the day, she's a mom protecting her kid. And where's the good testimony for the defense out of this? He extorted a mother when he's a multi-millionaire, a billionaire. What the actual... Next up on the stand was an exotic dancer by the name of The Punisher. Well, his government name was Sheree Hayes. But he talked about how he was paid $800 to do this sexy baby oil scene with Cassie, and Diddy was going to watch. Now, when he came to the hotel, he didn't know who he was meeting. And he eventually started to kind of figure out, but like Diddy always had a hat on, was kind of obscuring his appearance. He was told, don't address him, don't look at him, just be between the two of us. Obviously, Diddy liked what he did. He was paid another $1,200 and then ended up performing for them almost a dozen times more. He said that Cassie didn't seem particularly happy about the whole situation, that at some points she seemed comfortable, but not always. She came back on redirect and said, actually, no, she would usually sigh or kind of wince and stuff when all of this was happening. So clearly not happy. The last witness for the day was Special Agent Gerard Gannon, who was with Homeland Security and was responsible for the raid of Diddy's home in Miami. So he walked the jury through the process of how you do a search, that the fact that the place was so huge, they had to split up and have like different teams going through different parts of the house, that whenever they basically we're going to see something, they took a picture of it, then they impounded it in the whole, what we call in the legal world, chain of custody. Who took it, then who got it next, and then where was it kept, and all of that. He introduced a lot of the evidence they found at the house, including sex toys, guns with a serial number filed off, which you already know what time it is. If you are filing off a serial number of a gun, that's because you're doing some dirt. So trial's going to start back tomorrow, and it is anticipated that Kid Cudi, who apparently dated Cassie, is going to testify. So I will see you tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.